Imagine a pristine, empty luxury condo. Floor-to-ceiling windows reveal a breathtaking Miami skyline at dusk, but the cavernous rooms are silent, sterile, untouched. Cut to a close-up, a for sale sign, its fresh paint already peeling under the relentless sun, rattling violently in a humid breeze. Now a sweeping drone shot pulls back from a vast, newly built suburban development. The houses are perfect, identical, arranged in neat rows, but there are no cars in the driveways, no children playing in the yards. It is a ghost town, built yesterday. This was the American dream, supercharged and sold by the acre. For a few frantic years, Florida was the ultimate destination, a real estate gold rush fueled by a global pandemic, promising sunshine, freedom, and a piece of paradise. The frenzy was a national obsession. The headlines wrote themselves, each more unbelievable than the last. News reports from just a few years ago echoed the mania. Bidding wars are the new normal. Buyers are waiving inspections, offering tens of thousands above asking, sight unseen. Homes in Florida are selling in mere hours. But every gold rush has its end. Every speculative bubble, no matter how iridescent, is destined to pop. What happens when the flood of buyers slows to a trickle and then stops altogether, leaving behind a mountain of empty, unsold homes? On a map of Florida, the state's economic engines, the sprawling metro areas of Miami, Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville, now glow an ominous red. They are stamped with two words that signal a dramatic reversal of fortune: buyer's market. This is the story of how the hottest housing market in America fell into a deep, chilling freeze. It's a story of ambition and overdevelopment, of hidden costs and shifting economic winds. This isn't just a market correction, it's a cautionary tale, a seismic event whose tremors are beginning to be felt across the entire U.S. economy. To understand the collapse, you must first understand the intoxicating frenzy that preceded it. The COVID-19 pandemic didn't just change our lives, it rewired the very concept of home. As lockdowns spread, a mass exodus began. We saw families packing moving trucks in the dense gray cities of the Northeast, trading snow shovels for surfboards. We saw Silicon Valley tech workers, liberated from their cubicles, opening their laptops by a sunny Florida pool. The Zoom boom was in full effect. They were chasing more than just good weather. They were chasing space, lower taxes, and a sense of freedom in a world that felt increasingly restricted. Florida's political climate, which resisted the stringent lockdowns seen elsewhere, became a powerful marketing tool. The state was portrayed as an oasis of normalcy, and so they came, in a torrent of historic proportions. This unprecedented migration lit a fire under the housing market. The demand was insatiable, almost primal. Inventory evaporated overnight. Homes were sold before they were even listed on the market, through whisper networks and preemptive, all-cash offers. It was the ultimate seller's market, a paradise of guaranteed, astronomical profits. But even in paradise, the foundations can be unstable. The dream began to crack under the weight of its own success, revealing costs that had been ignored during the boom. The first and most devastating crack was the insurance crisis. For decades, the risk of hurricanes was the accepted price of living in the sun. But a string of destructive storms combined with rampant litigation and roofing fraud created a perfect storm for the insurance industry. The consequences were catastrophic. Major insurers, facing billions in losses, either fled the state entirely or hiked their premiums to levels that were once unimaginable. Homeowners were blindsided by renewal notices demanding double, triple, or even quadruple their previous year's premium. This added thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, to the annual cost of owning a home, turning a manageable mortgage into a crippling financial burden. The very foundation of the Florida dream was becoming fundamentally unaffordable. At the exact same moment, another crisis was brewing, born directly from the boom itself. Developers, fueled by easy credit and the belief that the line of buyers was endless, had engaged in a building spree of historic proportions. From the swamps of the interior to the last stretches of coastline, new communities sprouted like weeds. The result was a tsunami of new properties, a tidal wave of inventory that began to crest just as demand started to recede. The numbers are staggering. In February 2023, the state recorded a 143% year-over-year increase in housing inventory. Think about that. For every 100 homes on the market the year before, there were now 2043. Florida now accounts for an astonishing 15% of all homes for sale nationwide, despite having less than 7% of the U.S. population. The market was being drowned in supply. And then the market officially flipped. The delicate balance between supply and demand shattered. It had become a buyer's market, a condition where there are more homes for sale than there are buyers. Prices fall, power shifts from the seller to the buyer. All four of Florida's major metro areas, Miami, Orlando, Jacksonville, and Tampa, are now firmly and deeply in this territory. The health of a housing market is measured by a crucial metric: months of supply. It tells you how long it would take to sell every single home currently on the market if no new homes were listed. A healthy, balanced market has 4 to 6 months of supply. Anything over 6 is a clear signal of distress. The numbers coming out of Florida today are not just distressing, they are chilling. Nowhere is this crisis more apparent than in Florida's major urban centers. Each city tells a different chapter of the same grim story. Miami, the international hub, the capital of luxury and glamour, is now ground zero for the bust. Once the epicenter of the boom, it now holds an astonishing 9.7 months of supply, nearly a year's worth of unsold properties. Its median home price has fallen 4.7% in a single year, a number that is expected to accelerate. Orlando, the heart of family tourism and the American vacation, is suffering its own hangover. It's saddled with nearly 7 months of supply. The dream of living near the magic has become an unaffordable nightmare for many. In both Jacksonville, the sprawling logistic hub of the North, and the once booming Tampa Bay area, it would take over 6 months to sell every home currently on the market. The growth story that propelled these cities has stalled, leaving a trail of empty homes in its wake. Behind these sobering statistics are real people, their lives upended by the market's violent reversal. There are the sellers who, encouraged by soaring values, bought their dream home at the absolute peak of the market in 2022. They are now trapped, underwater on their mortgages, unable to sell without facing a devastating financial loss. There are the families who saw their net worth on paper soar and are now watching it evaporate month by month. The power dynamic has been completely inverted. Buyers who just a few years ago were forced into frantic, desperate bidding wars can now take their time. They can lowball offers, demand costly repairs, and force sellers into concessions. The palpable desperation has shifted entirely from the buyer to the seller, whose for sale sign has become a weight around their neck. A struggling housing market is never just about housing. It sends shockwaves that ripple through the entire economy. The construction boom that created tens of thousands of jobs is now facing a painful slowdown, with projects being paused or canceled outright. Ancillary industries are feeling the squeeze. Furniture stores, landscaping companies, mortgage brokers, and armies of real estate agents are all seeing their businesses dry up. The shockwave also hits the public sector. As property values stagnate or fall, so does the tax revenue that local governments depend on. This means less funding for schools, for firefighters, for road repairs, and public services. The prosperity that seemed so effortless during the boom is revealed to have been a fragile illusion. Historically, a housing downturn of this magnitude can be the canary in the coal mine, signaling a broader and more painful economic recession. While Florida's situation is extreme, it is not entirely unique. This is what worries economists the most. Other Sunbelt boomtowns, like Austin, Texas, which followed a similar trajectory, are also tipping into buyers' markets. Even major hubs like New York City are showing signs of weakness. This raises the most critical question of all. Is Florida an isolated case, a victim of its own unique storm of insurance woes and overbuilding? Or is it simply the first most dramatic domino to fall in a nationwide housing correction? With high interest rates and persistent affordability issues plaguing the entire country, the fear is that the problems crystallizing in Florida are a preview of what's to come for the rest of the nation. The Great Florida Housing Boom has unequivocally become the Great Unsold. What was once a beacon of pandemic-era prosperity is now a stark cautionary tale about the dangers of speculative fever and unchecked growth. The question that hangs heavy in the humid Florida air is, what happens next? Is this a temporary, albeit painful, correction that will wash the excess from the market and return it to a state of normalcy? Or is it the first tremor of a much larger earthquake, a prolonged and severe downturn with consequences that will last for years to come? No one knows for sure. We are in uncharted territory. The Sunshine State's real estate dream is balanced on a knife's edge. It has become a high-stakes economic experiment, with millions of lives in the balance, and the entire country is watching to see which way it falls.